Well, I know everybody's jumping on the hype train that goes to the Celtics. The previous contenders video that I made had 5 from both conferences, and now in the East at the very least, we know that it's definitely a two-horse race. Whether it be the side of the Celtics or the side of the Bucks, it's really just that plain and simple. You have arguably the greatest duo in NBA history being put together between Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and really the biggest loss that you took was Grayson Allen and Jrue Holiday. And while I anticipated that this was likely to happen, and I also anticipated that Jrue would have the most success if he ended up going to the Celtics, I wasn't 100% sure that the Celtics would end up pulling the trade in the way that they did.
Thanks for tuning into this video. As always, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. Make sure to like the video so that the algorithm knows to push it out so that we can get more viewers on the channel. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe, turn on those post notifications. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this one.
Obviously, we know that they did end up giving up a little bit of draft capital along with Malcolm Brogdon. And unfortunately, something that I was not anticipating was the loss of Robert Williams to them. So they really ended up not fleecing them for Jrue Holiday at this point in his career, but they got a very solid deal on both ends for both teams. The biggest issue for the Celtics going into this offseason after they lost Marcus Smart in favor of getting Kristaps Porzingis, in my mind was always, in the video that I spoke about it, just them getting better from the perspective of they need Al Horford's eventual replacement. Al Horford isn't on the same timeline as Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, and they needed that next guy up. Kristaps Porzingis, from a defensive standpoint, shooting standpoint, the ability to space the floor and just protect the rim, and also not just get beat in pick and roll situations, puts him as the perfect candidate, and they were able to get him from the Washington Wizards on a pretty solid workaround. What ended up happening next was you needed more playmaking. Now, Malcolm Brogdon obviously was a worthwhile decision in this trade along with the draft capital, but for the Trailblazers to really just essentially turn Dame into DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, Tamani Kamara, 3 first-round picks, and 2 pick swaps is incredibly impressive considering the lack of leverage that we initially thought they had. And just to put that into really the thought process of what's going on with the Celtics, now you have a starting 5 that has likely Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Jrue Holiday, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum. Their biggest question mark going forward, though, because they did obviously solve the issue of losing perimeter defense and playmaking, and honestly, you might have stepped up in both categories. Whether you think Jrue Holiday stepped back beneath Marcus Smart defensively or not is entirely up to you, but there's no doubt in my mind that he's a better facilitator and a better three-point shooter, especially when he decides to pick his shots wisely. With that in mind, the biggest issue that we're going to see now that they lost Time Lord is the simple fact that they're going to be very stretched thin in the bigs department. Now, I will go ahead and look into what teams have opportunities and pieces that they could trade for, but we did just see Dwight Howard try out for the Warriors, and I hear a lot of people talking about him possibly taking up that extra spot. Blake Griffin is talking about retiring before the season even starts, so that also puts things into question for them. But I think that they might want to go the route of picking up Kelly Olynyk. He is on an expiring contract with the Utah Jazz, and the Utah Jazz do have a lot of depth in the backcourt and the front court. I expect likely the Heat will call them about Colin Sexton or one of their point guards, since they do have a large commodity of them. But as far as bigs go, I think that the only expendable one that they really have is Kelly Olynyk, and he does provide decent shooting touch. He's a decent facilitator, so he's not going to be a ball killer and a movement killer when he's on the court. He's decent at picking and rolling. He's okay at rebounding, and he's not necessarily the greatest defensive player, but he does provide enough upside, in my opinion, to be a backup player for that team as they need it. Whatever the case may be, in the coming days, things will become more clear, but I have no doubt in my mind that these two teams are going to meet in the conference finals for the East at the very least. Right now, I do still lean towards Giannis and the Bucks simply because they lost guards and not their forward play. They still do have Brook Lopez, they still do have Chris Middleton, and they have the unstoppable Giannis Antetokounmpo, who really nobody's been able to consistently stop for an entire series in the NBA playoffs. Combine that now with his perfect complementary piece who shoots the ball, handles the rock better, and while he's not as good on the defensive side of the ball, obviously, what he lacks on defense, he more than makes up for in offense, considering he's coming off a season where he averaged a career high 32 points to go along with 7 assists. So he's going to give Giannis the much needed boost and offensive output in the playoffs that Jrue Holiday didn't have. And Grayson Allen, while he was consistent, just didn't together alongside Jrue Holiday provide enough of a scoring punch to keep them in games and to push them when Giannis wasn't going as hard as he really could have or really wanted to, particularly in this past playoff series. But as I said before, only time will tell.
But with all that being said, thanks for tuning in this video, guys. Make sure to like the video so that the algorithm knows to push this out to further viewers. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe, turn on those post notifications, leave us a comment and let us know what you think. I love to have intelligent discussions with you guys down below. And without any further ado, good morning, good evening, good night, no matter where you are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in to this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.